Oh my God. Oh my God.
It was supposed to be a quiet end to their shift, just two best friends laughing and chatting in their car late at night. But then a scream shattered the calm. They thought it was nothing, maybe kids playing. But when the screaming turned into desperate cries, they knew something was horribly wrong. As they drove closer, their headlights revealed a man dragging a terrified little girl across the parking lot. In that moment, everything changed. What happened next? You won't believe how far they went to protect a life. Keep watching to see this intense real-life rescue unfold. One evening, Celeste and her best friend Savannah had just wrapped up a long night shift at Olive Garden. Instead of heading straight home, they decided to unwind for a bit in the restaurant's parking lot. It was one of those quiet nights, the air still with only the occasional hum of a car passing by. Little did they know their decision to linger would soon thrust them into a situation neither of them would ever forget. The two friends were sitting in Celeste's car, chatting and laughing about random things, when something caught their attention. A faint sound, distant at first, but growing louder, pierced through the air. It sounded like someone was crying. Then suddenly they heard it, the unmistakable, heart-wrenching scream of a child. Savannah's face immediately tensed up, her carefree demeanor replaced with concern. "Did you hear that?" she asked, already reaching for the door handle. Celeste's hand moved instinctively to start the car, her laughter gone, replaced with a sense of dread. The sound of that scream sent chills down her spine. At first, they thought maybe it was just kids playing around in the parking lot, or perhaps someone pulling a prank. But something in the tone of that scream told them otherwise. This was real, and someone needed help. Without wasting another second, Celeste put the car in drive, slowly moving toward the direction of the noise. As they neared the far side of the parking lot, the dark outline of a man struggling with a small figure came into view. The figure, a little girl, was desperately trying to break free. The sight made Celeste's heart race, and she could feel Savannah's intensity beside her. Savannah rolled down her window, leaning out, as she yelled, "Hey! What are you doing? Get away from her!" The man turned his head sharply toward them, eyes wide with panic, but he didn't let go of the girl. Instead, he shouted back angrily, "Mind your business! This has nothing to do with you, bull." But Celeste and Savannah weren't about to back down. They knew they couldn't just drive away. Not with what was happening right in front of them. The little girl's sobs were growing louder, her voice breaking as she begged for the man to stop. "Do we call the cops?" Celeste asked, her hand trembling slightly as she gripped the steering wheel. "Absolutely," Savannah replied, already pulling out her phone and dialing 911. As she spoke to the dispatcher, giving their location and explaining the situation, the tension in the car was palpable. They both knew time was running out. As Savannah gave the dispatcher the details, the man seemed to realize that help was on the way. He yanked the little girl harder, as if trying to drag her away before the police arrived. That was when Celeste acted without thinking. She slammed her foot on the gas and drove her car right up to where the man stood, blocking his path. "Let her go!" Celeste yelled, stepping out of the car, her voice shaking but firm. Savannah, still on the phone with the police, jumped out as well. She was furious. "If you don't let her go, we'll make sure you regret it," she shouted, standing by the front of the car with her fists clenched. The man looked back and forth between the two women and the little girl, who was now sobbing uncontrollably. Realizing he was outnumbered and that the police were likely on their way, he suddenly let go of the girl. Without saying a word, he bolted across the parking lot and disappeared into the shadows. Celeste and Savannah rushed to the girl, who was shaking and crying, her face streaked with tears. She couldn't have been more than 10 years old, her small body trembling in fear. "It's okay, sweetheart," Celeste said softly, kneeling down to the girl's level. "You're safe now. We won't let anything happened to you?" The girl was too shaken to speak, but she clung to Celeste tightly, as if she were the only anchor keeping her from being swept away by fear. Savannah finished the call with the police, informing them that the man had fled, but that they were staying with the girl until help arrived. Minutes felt like hours as they waited for the police to arrive. The little girl slowly calmed down, but her eyes were still wide with fear. Celeste and Savannah stayed by her side, offering comfort and trying to keep her mind off what had just happened. Savannah reached into her purse and pulled out a small, colorful keychain in the shape of a kitten, handing it to the girl to hold onto. "What's your name?" Savannah asked gently, hoping to distract her. "Lily," the girl whispered, her voice barely audible. "Lily, you're very brave," Celeste said, rubbing her back soothingly. "The police will be here soon, and they're going to help make sure you're safe." Just as they were reassuring her, the sound of sirens filled the air. Moments later, a police cruiser pulled into the parking lot, and 2 officers stepped out. One of the officers, a tall woman with a kind face, approached them while her partner scanned the area for any sign of the man. "What happened?" the officer asked, crouching down next to the little girl. Savannah quickly explained everything, from the moment they heard the screams to when the man fled. The officer listened intently, her eyes flicking between the 2 women and the child, making sure to gather every detail. She nodded thoughtfully before turning to Lily. "Lily, can you tell me who that man was?" the officer asked softly. Lily hesitated for a moment, her small hands gripping Celeste. "Duas ações or swaying arm." Tightly. Then, in a shaky voice, she whispered, "He's my uncle. He said he was taking me home, but he hurt me." The officer's expression darkened. She stood up and motioned to her partner, who was already speaking into his radio, likely alerting other officers in the area to search for the man. "We'll take care of you now, Lily," the officer promised. "We're going to find your uncle and make sure he can't hurt you again." Celeste and Savannah stayed with Lily as the officers completed their report and called for Child Protective Services to ensure Lily would be placed in a safe environment. It was clear to both women that Lily had been through more than just tonight's incident, and they were determined to see that she got the help she needed. As the hours passed, the gravity of what had just happened began to sink in for Celeste and Savannah. They had acted on instinct, but the realization that they had potentially saved a child from a much worse fate left them both shaken and relieved. "We did the right thing," Celeste said softly as they watched the officers drive away with Lily, who waved weakly from the back seat. "Yeah, we did," Savannah replied, though the weight of the night still hung heavily in the air. Over the next few days, the incident stayed with them. They couldn't help but wonder what would have happened if they hadn't stayed in the parking lot that night. The idea of Lily being dragged away with no one to intervene haunted them. Savannah made a point of checking in with the police to get updates on Lily's situation. They learned that her uncle had been arrested later that night and was now facing charges of child endangerment and assault. Lily had been placed with a foster family, and the authorities were investigating her home life to ensure she wouldn't be returned to an unsafe environment. The ordeal brought Celeste and Savannah closer as friends, but it also opened their eyes to the harsh realities that some children face. They realized how important it was to step in when something didn't seem right, even if it meant putting themselves in harm's way. One evening, as they sat together in the same parking lot where it had all begun, Celeste turned to Savannah and said, "You know, I keep thinking about that night. We were just messing around, making TikToks, and then everything changed in an instant." Savannah nodded. "It's crazy. One minute we're laughing, and the next we're saving a kid's life. It's like, you never know when something like that is going to happen. I'm just glad we were there," Celeste added, her voice full of quiet gratitude. They sat in silence for a moment, both of them thinking about Lily and how their decision to act had made all the difference. It was a reminder that sometimes being in the right place at the right time could change someone's life forever. And while they knew they couldn't always save the world, that night had shown them that even two regular people could make a difference when it mattered most. The bond between Celeste and Savannah, already strong, grew even deeper after that night. They continued working together, living their lives as they always had, but with a newfound awareness of the world around them. They knew now that they were capable of more than they had ever realized, and that sometimes it only took a single moment of bravery to change everything. As for Lily, she was on the path to healing. The trauma of her experience would take time to fade, but with the support of the foster system and the intervention of people like Celeste and Savannah, she had a chance at a better future.